Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is the number one problem, or the big problem that the Brooklyn Nets have that no one is talking about. So that's the topic I want to get into in today's video about. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, be sure to get ready for our Dreamerspro premium platform that we're launching in the beginning of next week, which we're super excited about. And be on the lookout for Dreamerspro.com, which is coming out at the end of this month. So anyway, let me go ahead and get into this topic right here. Now, this may be a controversial topic for some, but it's something I've been thinking about. And the reason I'm thinking about this is whenever there's a lot of hype around a particular team or player, especially coming from people like Stephen A. Smith, I'm always leery. I'm always leery. Just yesterday, to veer off topic for just a second, because Stephen Curry scored 62 points, I believe he scored 62 points a day or two ago, right? Which he's perfectly capable of, if you guys saw. Stephen A. Smith came back from his vacation and he came on TV and he said, here he comes. Here he comes with this, hyperbolic talk that he normally does. Comes out there and he goes, Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter, which we all agree with. And then he goes, and with a healthy Clay, and then at the least, they're going to be in the Western Conference. They ain't be no damn Western Conference fight. They not better than the damn Clippers. Oh, man. Anyway, back to the topic here. So, I was watching the New Jersey Nets, right? And we all know the backstory. Kevin Durant was shamed by the league to go play with the Brooklyn Nets because he felt like as if he had to prove something. But given the fact that probably things didn't work out with the Golden State Warriors, they tore his Achilles tendon and all these different things. Nevertheless, there was this narrative going around the league that Kevin Durant needed to prove that he can lead a team and all that. And he fell for it. He took the bait and he fell for it. I don't know why he did it, but he fell for it. Left the team where he was winning, and he felt like as if Kevin Durant was the only team that was winning, that was on a stacked team. There's so many teams in the history of the NBA, but somehow he allowed people to guilt him into moving to go play with that team, and then now he is where he is. So he went to go play with the Brooklyn Nets with his best friend Kyrie Irving. Now I like Kyrie Irving as a basketball player. He's an amazing basketball player. There's no questions about it. Although some things that he says sometimes makes me scratch my head. Now, a few things to pay attention to. We all know KD's coming off of his Achilles tendon injury. Number one of the things I said earlier is that I'm not so sure if Kevin Durant is 100% healthy. That's one thing. I'm not so sure about that. Number two, if y'all remember, Kyrie Irving played 20 games last season. So there are two big question marks around this team. The first one is health, right? Health from Kyrie and from Kevin Durant. One of their key players, their stars, had missed over a year of basketball. And he's back, and I'm still kind of looking at him. And given the fact of what was recently released, he's going to miss some games because I think being exposed to that infection or whatever it is. So he's going to miss, I think, the next 7 days of basketball. And we'll see how that would affect their record. Now, looking at their record currently, if I look at the standings in the Eastern Conference, the New Jersey Nets are not even in the playoffs. They have a 3-4 record. Leave it to Stephen A. Smith and his hype. Now, let me say this. I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. But as of now, there are other teams playing much better than they are, like the Philadelphia 76ers, the Pacers, the Celtics, the Bucks. All of these guys are playing in the Atlanta Hawks. But that's not really the argument I'm trying to. That's not really the point that I'm trying to make here. Anyway, so there's been a lot of hype, but these players are injury prone, and KD's already going to be missing games. Secondly, they lost Spencer Dinwiddie, who got injured. Spencer Dinwiddie is no longer playing with them, and he's a really, really good young player for that team, right? Really good young player for that team, and they just lost him to injury, which takes away their depth and their versatility. So Spencer Dinwiddie is not there. Now, here is my number one problem that I have with the New Jersey Nets, and this is the thing that nobody's talking about, with the exception of Nick Wright. I heard him say it once, and I had said it to myself prior. The number one problem I have with the Brooklyn Nets is this: Kyrie Irving does not know that he is not the best player on that team. Now, some people may say, well, what's the big deal about that? Like, what do you mean he doesn't know? I'm saying that Kyrie Irving doesn't understand that KD's the best player on that team. And whenever you have issues like that, it usually does not breed success. We can look at Shaq and Kobe. Yes, it worked initially because they were just too good to lose. Not the case with these guys because these guys have injury issues and all of that. That's one thing. But ultimately, it didn't work out with Shaq and Kobe. If you look at KD and Russell Westbrook, forget about what KD said. He left. He was talking about KD would come and want to box people in the press conference if they said something about Russell Westbrook. He would come and he want to box you. And then he left. How are you sitting there defending your best friend and he's this great guy and then you left? So obviously it wasn't that good after all, was it? That didn't work out because Russell Westbrook didn't understand that Kevin Durant was the best player on that team. Now KD used an excuse and said, hey, listen, every team I've been on, I've led that team in shots. My friend, nobody's questioning whether or not you're taking more shots. I'm saying that a lot of games that I've watched with the Brooklyn Nets in those fourth quarters is usually tit for tat. And one game, I think it was against Atlanta Hawks, Kyrie wasn't even checking for KD. I saw that game. He wasn't even looking at this guy. And I'm like, he's the most unstoppable player on the floor because Kevin Durant is just a taller version of Kyrie Irving, which means he's more unstoppable. And he wasn't even looking at KD. Like, he wasn't even blinking in his direction. And I was like, whoa, this could be an issue. Now, Shaquille O'Neal had made a comment about Paul George in the offseason saying they need to get Paul George out of there because this guy who's the number 2 player thinks he's the number 1. And Paul George just a night or two ago after the win, after they beat the Phoenix Suns, said with his own 2 lips that something as Kawhi Leonard is our best player. I thought that was profound that he said that because Paul George acknowledges that Kawhi Leonard is the best player, which means that team has an identity and everybody knows their role and is a pecking order. Teams that usually have an established pecking order usually win. Think of the Miami Heat with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. That first year, no one knew whose team it was until Dwayne Wade had the maturity and the wherewithal to say, listen, LeBron, this is your team and we'll follow. Somebody had to concede that, and the moment they did that, they were able to figure it out. Egos were taken out the window, and people understood their roles on that team. It was no longer ego-driven. It was all about being results-driven. And too many times I've watched these Brooklyn Nets, and Kyrie Irving is just out there like, man, let me just go out here and get my buckets. And I don't know if their philosophy is we both need to average 26, 27 points per game for us to be happy. But I don't think. I think that's going to be an issue down the line. Now, granted, they're best friends, right? But best friends have had quarrels before. We saw it in Oklahoma. It was an issue there. Russell Westbrook was the primary decision maker, and KD's out there usually sometimes standing out in the corner. And yes, some games he can get 30, but some games he can get 40. KD's the one that needs to, to really get back in basketball shape. And too many times I see Kyrie Irving taking over game. Not that he's not capable of it, but when Kevin Durant is your best player, I'm sorry, man, 60 to 70% of the offense needs to go through him because he's the most unstoppable player on the court almost every single night. He's the one guy that cannot be guarded probably in the entire NBA. And too many times I see Kyrie Irving just out there in a vacuum, focused on his numbers. Now, some people may say, what's the big deal? Well, their record now is 3-4. Right? Their record is 3-4. So it's not really working. This style of basketball is not really working. To have this much talent and be 3-4, there are other teams that have less talent that are actually have better records. I'm not saying it's going to be this way for the whole season. I'm not saying that this team's not going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying they're not going to do well in the playoffs. I'm just saying that it's something to be mindful of because in the past it has been shown to not work. And I don't think there's any exception to this rule here. I don't. There was a video of them arguing about post-ups, touches, and Kyrie was like, I thought I'd get 8 or this. And I'm like, anyway, so what I want to know from you guys is, do you think that this could possibly be a hindrance for this team moving on in the future, or you think no big deal, everything will be all right? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day. Again, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the next video that we have coming up on the channel. Once again, enjoy your day and catch you guys on the next episode. Peace!